The Crusades were a series of religious wars that took place between the 11th and 13th centuries. Christian armies from Europe marched to the Holy Land, land sacred to both Christians and Muslims, claiming to fight in the name of God. What began as a call to protect pilgrims and reclaim Jerusalem quickly became a massive conflict, fueled by faith, politics, and the promise of glory. For 200 years, Europe and the Middle East were swept up in battles, sieges, and campaigns that would shape the world forever. Before the call to the Holy Land, Europe was already burning. Famine stalked the countryside. Lords waged private wars for power and pride. The poor prayed for bread while the rich bathed in blood. Only one power held the chaos together, the Church. To the people, it was more than faith. It was order, justice, salvation. Far to the east, the Byzantine Empire was dying. Once the jewel of Christendom, now surrounded by enemies, Turks pressing hard from Asia, cities falling one by one. And in that desperation, came a letter. A plea for help. In the east, an emperor stood on the edge of despair. The Seljuk Turks had crushed his armies, seized his lands, and threatened the very heart of Constantinople. Cities burned, borders collapsed, and the empire he had sworn to protect teetered on the brink of ruin. Desperate and outnumbered, Emperor Alexios I Komnenos sent a plea across the mountains and seas, a letter to Pope Urban II in Rome. He asked for only a handful of knights, a small force to help push back the invaders and protect his crumbling empire. But when Urban read the words, he saw something different. He saw more than a request for soldiers. He saw an opportunity to unite a fractured Europe under the Church, to channel the restless energy of knights and nobles, and to wield faith as a weapon more powerful than any army. What Alexios asked for was simple: aid for his empire. What Urban gave was far greater: the spark that would ignite the Crusades, a call that would move kings and peasants alike, and a vision that would turn faith into war. Alexios asked for an army. Urban gave him an empire's soul. It was winter in Clermont, 1095. Thousands had gathered in the muddy fields, peasants, knights, nobles, all listening. Pope Urban II stepped forward and spoke. "Christians, our brothers and sisters in the East are being attacked. Pilgrims are beaten. Churches are destroyed. Holy lands are lost. We cannot ignore their suffering. We must take up the cross and march to Jerusalem. Whoever fights in this holy cause will have their sins forgiven and find honor before God. Leave behind your homes, your wealth, your worries. Fight for the faith, protect the innocent, and serve God's will." The crowd went silent, then erupted. Deus vult! Deus vult! Tears and shouts filled the air. In that moment, history changed. A holy war had begun. Across Europe, a fire had been lit. Peasants sold their homes, leaving behind smoke and sorrow, clutching wooden crosses as symbols of their faith and their destiny. Chaos became order. Knights and nobles gathered their banners, forming armies that stretched as far as the eye could see. From this whirlwind, two forces would rise: the People's Crusade, untrained, desperate, and hopeful, and the Prince's Crusade, disciplined, ambitious, and unstoppable. They marched not for land, not for gold, but for the promise of heaven. After years of marching, endless suffering, and brutal battles, the Crusaders finally reached their ultimate goal, Jerusalem. The city's walls, once thought impenetrable, fell under relentless assault. The streets ran red as defenders and citizens, men, women, and children, were caught in the flood of violence. Churches and homes burned, smoke rising to the sky like a dark warning. Crusaders raised their crosses over the ruins, claiming victory in the name of God. But in the silence that followed the chaos, there was no celebration, only the echo of death. They had marched thousands of miles, fought countless battles, and shed rivers of blood. They said they fought for God, but all anyone could hear was the sound of dying, the cries of the fallen, and the heavy weight of destruction they had left behind. Jerusalem was taken, but at a cost that would haunt generations. A city conquered in the name of faith had become a battlefield drenched in tragedy. The First Crusade ended in fire and blood, but it was only the beginning. New wars followed. Saladin reclaimed Jerusalem. Richard the Lionheart fought to hold it. Constantinople fell to Crusader swords. Acre, the last Christian stronghold, would eventually fall. For 200 years, the world was defined by the echo of that single speech. Faith and blood walked hand in hand, shaping kingdoms, defining empires, and haunting generations born under the banners of war. The reflection, the weight of words. One man's words gave meaning to millions, and took it from millions more. This is what happens when belief becomes war. What do you think was the real reason behind the Crusades? Share your thoughts in the comments. And while you are there, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and thumbs up. It really helps us keep going, and I really appreciate all of you for tuning in. I will see you in the next video, where we will uncover another chapter of history.